Okay, folks, I'm just going to give it one more minute. We're expecting about 20 people or there, give or take, so. Can I confirm that somebody can see my screen?
I can see it.
Perfect. And in a moment, I'll do a roll call of who I see on the call. And if somebody is listed under a generic viewer number, I'll just get you to kind of identify yourself so that we know who to PD points to. Louise and Lee, can you give me last names?
It's Lee Toner and Louise Logan, Jen.
Logan. All right, perfect. I was going to guess, but just wanted to make sure.
Could get me in trouble.
I could. And there's a few names I don't recognize. Is everybody from Ontario, or are there, I know there was people registered from other provinces. Can you just chat your province in the chat box? I guess if there's someone from Manitoba or Quebec here, those were the ones that were, I think, registered from out of province. Oops. Okay, John's from
Hey,
Quebec.
Dawn's on it. Yeah. He said he had all the points in the world.
He does have all the points in the world.
I do. I just want to see who else is here.
Okay, the more people that know the truth of the NCCP, the more who can spread it around, right? Okay, folks. I'm gonna just run through who I see on the list. If I don't call your name out, just identify yourself, please. So I have Jason Johnson, John Runciman, Lori Donovan, Taylor. Oh, I'm gonna Sopotiak. Sorry about that. Jean Bouchard, Steve Flanagan, Don McFall, Greg Lydiot, Louise Logan, Lee Toner, Jennifer Langford. Is there anybody else I have not called?
Dan Lemieux.
Dan, hi Dan.
How's it going, Dan?
So good to hear all these voices from up north. That's awesome. Okay. Okay. So without further ado, we'll get started. I'm conscious of the time. You never know. We may have a few more people join in. Thank you very much for those of you who were registered for last night. I'm sorry I had to make that switch, but such is life sometimes. And I'm glad that those of you who are on the call tonight were able to make that change. And I think we actually ended up picking up about another 7 or 8 people by making the change. So I will send out a copy of this recording, obviously. And I just wanted to wish everybody on the call a happy Coaches Week. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it is the Coaching Association of Canada and its partner organizations week that they celebrate National Coaches Week. And because of that, this webinar is free to all of you. I know some of you are from out of province. It will have a little bit of an Ontario spin on it, as this is part of the Ontario Curling Council's OCC webinar series. But knowing that we have Quebec on the line, I am familiar with some of their procedures, so I will be able to advise you a little. And anything I don't have for you, France Nault at Curling Quebec is a great resource. So without further ado, I'm going to mute you all. I'm hoping you can still hear me when I do this. So can someone just chat to confirm they can hear me? Can anybody hear me? Yes, perfect. Thank you. It's always weird talking to dead air. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, the call is being recorded, as I mentioned. I'm going to close this. You should be able to see my screen. And I want to welcome you to, I think it's already our 4th webinar this fall. Some of you know me, some of you do not. I am Jennifer Ferris. I happen to be the Manager of Programs and Operations for the Ontario Curling Council, and I've been in that role since 2014. The Ontario Curling Council is the recognized provincial sport organization of the province, and Curl On and NOCA are our members. And as such, I'm responsible for the operations of the PSO in Ontario, and we're privileged to look after coach, athlete, official, parasport, and ice tech development, all provincial funding, and the province-wide competition. So it's a pretty fun job. Many of you will also know that I've been working for Curling Canada for about 13 years. I think my official title there is NCCP Transition Consultant, but now that the transition is done, I'm just the NCCP consultant. So I did lead the group of subject matter experts through the transition from the levels-based to competency-based system. So now we're just needing to revise everything. So I'm sure it'll never end. I've also been training coaches for more than 23 years. I started when I was a lot younger, and I am a master coach developer, a certified master coach developer, and I administer Curling Canada's competition development program, as well as coordinate, administer, and teach all the other coach training courses in the province. I work for Curling Canada as a national next gen coach. I'm also a member of a 3-person committee who's rewriting our long-term athlete development model. Just for fun, I like to do that one. I'm personally a certified competition development coach, and also I guess I'm a retired respiratory therapist. I don't know what else to call myself, but that's a little bit about me. And I know many of you on the call, but some I don't know. So the purpose of this call is just to bring some clarity and some understanding around curling's coach development pathways, kind of let you know where we've been, where we're going to go, what the current landscape is, and to answer any questions you might have about maintaining certification through professional development credits. So I think a lot of people know the NCCP has been around a long time. It was launched in 1974 by the CAC. So we're going to talk a lot in acronyms here. So NCCP is the National Certification Coaching Program, or National Coaching Certification Program, sorry. The CAC is the Coaching Association of Canada. So NCCP is one of Coaching Association of Canada's programs. It is their flagship program, and the two are often used interchangeably, sorry. I would say the NCCP, and there's one other program in Britain that's probably as good, tend to be world leaders in coach education. Very few countries have systems that rival ours with regards to coach education. It is Canada's largest continuing education program for adults, and it is designed and delivered in partnership with the Government of Canada, so Sport Canada, the provincial territorial governments, and the national, provincial, and territorial sport organizations. The nice thing about the NCCP is it's a training and certification program. It services 66 different sports. It's offered in both English and French across the country. And the workshops nowadays are designed to meet all types of coaches, from the first-time coach to a head coach of a national team. The beauty about the design of the system right now is they're not all in the same workshop. So I recall, back in the day when we started coaching, you would have a room of 40 people in Toronto, and they'd be all at a level 1 technical, and you'd have everybody there, from somebody who wants to learn how to curl better themselves, somebody wanted to learn wheelchair curling, someone wants to learn Special Olympics curling, someone wanted to take their kid to the Olympics, somebody wants to just coach in their club. It was impossible to meet the needs of all the participants. So now that the coaches are trained in streams, it becomes a lot easier to meet the needs of the coaches and train them for the athletes that they intend to work with. So it has become a bit more of an athlete-centric program. As part of this program, all coaches are now trained in ethical decision-making and sports safety. So I think there's something that's something that everybody knows about the NCCP. So nowadays, level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are expired terminology. So it took about 10 years, but the coaching programs were all transitioned from levels-based into context-based. And what that means is it's shifted the emphasis of the NCCP to becoming, to hopefully developing more competent coaches. I find the coaches right now are far more well-rounded. They look after the athlete more holistically. I wouldn't say we're necessarily training better curling coaches, because I feel that some of the sport-specific time has been sacrificed, but that's something that we're working to rectify in revisions. But the reality is we're still producing fantastic coaches. And an incredible number of the coaches, believe it or not. I know in Ontario alone, it's not uncommon for us to train about 250 to 300 coaches per year in the NCCP, and then another, 500 to 600 in PD events. Now, I know some of those people are overlapped, but we often have interactions with 700 to 800 coaches in an education capacity throughout a year. So our emphasis has also shifted from what a coach knows to what a coach can do. So it's no longer enough just to go sit in a room and be present for a couple of days. Now you actually have to prove that you know what you know. And curling, thankfully, we completed our transition from the levels-based system in 2015. So we've got a few years under our belt, and like I said, now the emphasis has to shift to quality assurance, and we have to do that in concert with the Coaching Association of Canada, because we, as a sport, chose to integrate the majority of the CAC's teachings. So whenever the CAC changes something, we now have to change it, and we have to change it in both official languages. So it's a little bit onerous to jump in and to change things on a whim. So I'm going to see if this works. This is a fancy poll that I saw. I'm going to flip to this and see if it actually works. We'll see. Okay. It might not. No. Okay. We'll skip this part. If you could throw it in your chat box, were you trained as a levels-based coach, or were you trained in the new stream? You could just write new or levels, and I'm just kind of curious as to where we're at. Yeah, some of you will be a combo of both for sure. Okay. Okay, very good. So, 1, 2, and yeah, there's going to be quite a few people who are kind of partway between. So some of you will have seen this then. If you were trained in the new system, you will have seen this is what's called the Orchestra Chart, and it's generic to all sports in the NCCP. And as a result, it's kind of shown the lay of the land, and each sport could choose to develop whatever levels or streams work for them. So right now, the NCCP is built on 5 core competencies. So all education events are built on these core competencies of valuing, interacting, leading, problem solving, and critical thinking. And then those 5 core competencies are made, they call it made concrete, or they're executed through a bunch of coaching outcomes. So at the end of this, now we have to remember we're speaking a generic language for 66 different sports. So at the end of a context, we wanted the people to have the following outcomes. So make ethical decisions, provide supports to athletes in training. So that's kind of practice support or people who are training. Plan a practice, supporting the competitive experience. So that means when you're in a game situation or tournament. Analyzing performance. So that means skill analysis or technical tactical analysis. Designing a sport program. That could mean anything from organizing your team season to planning a quadrennial for an Olympian, perhaps. Managing a program is the everyday activities that you do as a coach. Making sure that the entry fees are paid, that the kids know how to read the draw, that the parents know where they have to be and when, all that kind of stuff, right? And any sport-specific outcomes. So each of these outcomes are woven through the entire NCCP program. And as a result, there is a really, really detailed, it's about a 53-point checklist that every context or every workshop that is designed by a sport has to pass to make sure it's up to the same standard, so that a curling coach is equal to a judo coach, is equal to a hockey coach, is equal to a fencing or rowing or whatever, insert the sport. So as a result, there are 3 different streams, and what this is all about is making sure that the coach matches the athlete, because as I explained at the beginning, it was impossible to meet the needs of every participant in a levels-based workshop. So the sport of curling, when we took a look at the needs of our members, meaning our member associations, when we took a look at this, we knew that we had to look after competitors, but the majority of our athletes, about 99% of them, are in community sport. So if there are, 700,000 curlers in Canada, 99% of them are serviced by the community sport pathway. We have a future wish list to potentially design the instructor. To us, our vision for that is like a curling pro, a professional who would mirror like a golf pro. Take that instructor stream very seriously. Things like a paid professional could actually reside in that space. And we may actually see that developed, but outside of the NCCP, so that we're not so restrictive in what we have to teach, right? We may actually bring that curling pro to life if there's a need. So you're also going to see there's different rings in this chart, and within the NCCP now there's in training, which is the bottom ring. There's trained, and there's certified. There's an advanced status and a master status. And not every sport has developed every one of the rings. So in curling, we've developed the two streams, as I mentioned. So we developed the community sports stream, and we have the community sport initiation, which is our club coach youth program, and our community sport ongoing participation, which is our club coach program. You can enter either program. One is not a prerequisite to the other. And once you've taken one, you can go back to the other one or forward to the next one. It doesn't matter. You basically can enter wherever it interests you. And we're finding that the active for life, so basically anybody after age 15 who plays recreational is considered to be active for life, really. They can be supported by coaches from either the community sports stream or the competitive stream. Our competition stream, we've got a few of these things built out. So our competition coach program is well established. It's our first foray into competition, and a coach could enter here as their first entry into coaching as well. You do have to be a certified competition coach before you can take the Canada Winter Games competition module. That is a specialty module that we use to train coaches going to the Canada Winter Games. Eventually, I'm hoping by the end of this year, we'll have this built out to be a generic PD module that's available to all coaches as a stepping stone between competition coach and competition development. It's our wish list. Rob Krebs and I are working on that. And in here, we would have probably two modules at this level. One would be how to support your athlete in practice, like so the daily training environment, and how to support an athlete in competition. So really learning how to take an athlete to a week-long event, like a provincial or a national. Our competition development program has been in the works since 2015. And a coach, in theory, could also enter here. It would be very difficult to, but if they were a highly trained or a highly coached athlete turned coach, somebody who's been exposed to high performance coaching throughout their life, they could be suitable for that. As well, you might also find people who come with an education background or coaches who are highly trained from another sport. They often will have many transferable skills, but they all have to have a background knowledge in curling, because that curling IQ is the hardest part to transfer over. And then we're working now on a pilot phase this season on competition development advanced gradation. And we might actually end up skipping advanced gradation, and it might actually be called competition development high performance. The Coaching Association of Canada is kind of trying to figure out what differentiates those two. And we're probably one of the first sports who are ready to pilot. So this year we're piloting with a handful of coaches to figure out if indeed we do need to certify Comp Dev advanced gradation coaches, or if it's by invitation to just be dealing with our national team program and the most elite athletes. So that's something we got to kind of figure out as a sport. We're trying to be careful not to train a bunch of people who then go work for other countries, right? So the interesting thing, I find it interesting anyways, is the fact that we now have our coach training programs aligned with our long-term athlete development model. I did not have the benefit of having our LTAD when we were designing our coach development programs. The two programs were kind of developed at the same time, but the groups didn't cross over. And now when we know as much as what we know about LTAD, we know that A, our LTAD needed to be updated, and B, the coaches are the people who implement our LTAD, so we have to be training them about it. So our LTAD rewrite is critically important, and that is a first step before we kind of dive into changing all of the coach training programs. Because it's a bit of a chicken and egg thing or a cart before the horse thing again. If we don't have the LTAD right, how will we know what to train the coaches on? So there are going to be some exciting changes, I think, coming up in the next probably year or two as we dive into all of this. So I'm going to just open it up for a quick second there and see if anybody's got any questions on our development model. Anything so far, folks? Are you asleep yet?
No.
No? Okay. I am monitoring the chat box too, so if you do have questions, feel free to stop me. I'll mute you again. Okay. So when we're advising people what pathway they should take, and this is important, a lot of you are, with being a certified or an experienced coach in your clubs, you'll get asked by people who are looking to get started. And, it's hard to kind of point them in the right direction with there being so many entry points. But I find that if people plan to just focus on the level of curler that they want to either coach or instruct, and if it's just, they just want to help out at the Little Rocks program or the juniors, they're playing recreationally just in the clubs, or maybe get a little inner club, a youth inner club. Club Coach Youth is a great starting point. It's about a 10-hour workshop. It's they sit there, they go through the exercise and they're going to come away with some really practical tips on what they can do to implement youth programming, and they would be a valuable asset to a youth program right away. They don't need to be certified. They don't need any tests. They don't need any evaluations, nothing. It's just go out there and get some really practical information. If a coach is planning to work with adults or older juniors who are playing within the club, if they're planning to work within a Learn to Curl league, they want to work and run clinics, they want to do advanced clinics, they want to eventually work on the Curl On Clinic team program, they want to run rookie leagues within the club, maybe they want to become, draw masters or just become more informed about curling. Club Coach is by far and away the best spot for them. Club Coach, we run more club coaches than any other program. It's not uncommon for us to run or train about 180 to 200 coaches through this program in a year. That's in addition to our Adult Learn to Curl program that we run outside of the NCCP. So it is by far and away our most popular program, and I think it's the most undervalued or perhaps most valuable workshop we have. But people who plan to actually coach a team who wants to compete, whether it be juniors, adults, seniors, masters, it's basically those working with 4 athletes who plan to practice and compete together. Those are the ones that we point towards Competition Coach. And we highly recommend that people entering Competition Coach have a pretty good understanding of curling themselves. I can't teach them everything there is to know about curling strategy or curling themselves in a weekend. They have to have an inherent knowledge of the sport. We can teach them a lot about technical and tactical, but it's a lot easier for them if they come to us with a background. So that's kind of how we guide people. I alluded to the fact that there's different rings on that orchestra chart, and there's basically 3 different stages that we use in the sport of curling. So we use in training. It's when the coach has completed some of the required training for that context. There's trained. It's when the coach has all of the pieces of the training, and then they're certified when they've completed the evaluation requirements. And in curling, it's not the same for every sport. That's why I'm careful to say in curling, we only require our certified coaches to get PD points to maintain their certification. The trained coaches, which is the status that you would receive after taking either club coach or club coach youth, does not require PD. So only certified competition coach or competition development coaches require PD credits to maintain their certification. So about our community sports stream, there are 2 contexts. The context being community sport initiation, which is our club coach youth. As I mentioned, it's a 1-day workshop. Did undergo revisions a few years back, and as a result of integrating LTAD information into that workshop, it did increase in length a little bit, but we're looking to try to pare that down and get it down to a manageable kind of 8-hour day again. After that workshop, the person would be a trained youth club coach or a club coach youth coach, I guess. We always, played around with those names. Again, club coach, they can enter there. The context is community sport ongoing participation. So contexts are, I'm doing air quotes, you can't see me. Contexts are multi-sport. They're across all 66 sports. So those are the generic words, but what it means in our sport is a club coach workshop. It's 2 days. After that, they're a trained club coach. As I mentioned, neither of those require evaluation. Likely, many of you have been through these workshops, but you can see what's covered off. So a youth club coach is expected to know how to prepare a safe environment, make ethical decisions, lead colors and activities which are age and stage appropriate and technically correct for youth curlers, manage youth programs, and demonstrate correct coaching behaviors. So that's a lot to fit into a 1-day workshop. And what you need to know is if you take the make ethical decisions as part of Club Coach Youth, it does not satisfy the requirements for make ethical decision training as a standalone in the competition coach pathway. The reason is we've integrated the make ethical decision material into Club Coach Youth, and it was pared down from about 3 hours to 1 hour. So it doesn't meet training requirements. Now, that being said, a coach who's taken Club Coach Youth training could probably challenge the evaluation and be successful. But that's why there's not an equal credit given. The same also applies for Club Coach. So Club Coach, those people learn how to plan and design a clinic. They also learn about making ethical decisions, how to teach the correct curling skills, more of an emphasis on analyzing and correcting curling skills, ensuring a safe coaching environment, and planning, managing, and designing a curling program. And that managing that curling program is more like planning the 20-week junior schedule. That's what that alludes to a little bit more. So the primary difference between our community sports stream and the competition stream in curling is evaluation. So in the competition stream, we require coaches to be certified. And those coaches have to be certified, and often it's tied to rules. And every province has a different set of rules, which are often directly tied to the national rules for coach standards requiring that are required at a national competition. So it's kind of a top-down approach. There are a clear set of standards at Curling Canada now. I cleared these all up last year, I think. That, if you plan to coach at a certain competition, there is a standard that says thou shalt be and it'll say a certified or a trained or whatever coach at whatever level. And as a result, most provinces then will reverse engineer that, take it one step back, and have that same requirement for their provincials. However, some provinces, based on, say, the number of certified coaches, they may have a standard that's a little bit less. Some provinces, for example, Manitoba and Saskatchewan require even more training. They require additional things like respect in sport or commit to kids, different ethical or behavioral trainings, so that they've done the utmost to protect children from who are vulnerable, really. So every province is different. It's the responsibility of the coach when you enter a competition to make sure you know the standard and that you meet that standard. For the most part, exemptions are not granted at a national level unless there are dire circumstances. And any exemption would have to go through the executive director or Jerry Peckham, who's the manager or the high performance director. But for the most part, we don't want to manage coaches by exemption, because we want the coaches who are working with the athletes to be more knowledgeable than the athletes themselves. And for a long time in Canada, we haven't valued coaching enough. And as a result, a lot of our athletes have outgrown our coaches. So we've placed a renewed emphasis on coach development, and this is at the urging of Sport Canada and Own the Podium, to make sure that our coaches know more and can keep us moving forward as a nation. I'll get off my pulpit now. That's a little bit off topic, right? But as I mentioned, coaches can start their training at Competition Coach, but they have to have that really good understanding of the game. So a few years ago, we revised our training pathway to reflect that there's kind of different ways to get to this. So there are 3 different pathways here. So that means there's 3 different ways to get to the same outcome. The first is a traditional competition coach workshop. It's a 2-day workshop where make ethical decision training may or may not be offered as an adjunct to the workshop, but most certainly the coaches are given information on understanding the NCCP, teaching and learning, planning a practice, strategy and tactics, analyzing performance, coaching and curling, and coaching athletes with a disability. That's what's covered off in a standard workshop. There are times when a curling organization, such as the Ontario Curling Council or Curling Quebec, will offer make ethical decision training on, say, the Friday night before a competition coach workshop. The reason why we do this is to try to provide a one-stop shop for the coaches so that they don't have to go and do yet another training on another weekend. And often make ethical decision workshops aren't necessarily that prevalent, or they're not offered very often during the curling season. So as a result, we had our curling facilitators trained to deliver the Make Ethical Decision workshop. It's exactly the same workshop as what you'd get from a multi-sport agency like the Coaches Association of Ontario. It's just delivered by our curling facilitators. All of the, none of the content has been curlified at all. So if you see MED for curling, that's the pathway, or that's what it is. From there, so if you have either one of those pieces, you would be in training. And then once you have both of them, you're considered to be trained. After that, in order to become certified, the coach has to do a competition coach evaluation, which is an in-person observation and a submission of a written practice plan and emergency action plan. And the coach has to do make ethical decisions online evaluation. What has changed is that once you've passed the Make Ethical Decision evaluation, you receive credit for that for life. You don't have to prove that you're ethical at every different stage or level of certification now. So once you get MED, you have MED now. And you used to have to go on and select the appropriate MED for your context. Now, there were so many errors and so many wasted dollars and complaints that now it's pick whatever one is most relevant to you and your coaching situation. All that's different are the scenarios that are within it, but the content is all the same. So now if you pick community sport accidentally when you're trying to get certified as a competition coach, it will still give you credit. So that's the most traditional pathway. Secondly, you could do a competition coach workshop, so the curling workshop. You could take MED training either online through the Coaches Association of Ontario or in one of their in-person workshops, or through Curling Quebec or your provincial territorial coaching representative. So that might be Sports Manitoba or whoever the provincial territorial coaching representative is in your province. But in Ontario, it is the Coaches Association of Ontario. And then the evaluation pathway is the same. The third, last one is the challenge pathway, where if somebody feels they have the competencies, that they have the knowledge, they can demonstrate that. And training is always optional in the certification pathway. So a coach could come in and directly challenge either the competition coach practice evaluation or the MED online evaluation, but they have to be successful within 2 attempts, or they're referred back to training. So it's kind of an either-or situation. We've already talked about that. So the competition coach evaluation process, it's the Make Ethical Decision online evaluation, and the portfolio submission is simply an athlete profile, so tell us the age and stage of athletes that you're working with and their names. Submit your emergency action plan and your written practice plan ahead of time so that we can review it and give you advice on to ensure that you're successful in your practice. That happens all the time. Once that's done, what will happen is the person, you can book an evaluation with a local evaluator, and that person will come out and observe you working with your team for about 60 to 90 minutes or so is ideal. So when I talk about the challenge, we don't recommend challenges because I've seen Olympic level athletes sit in our workshops and walk away and say, oh, I didn't know that, or I thought I knew a lot about curling until I sat down and learned about that. And we're very cautious, and we always recommend training. But it is, the reality that some athletes turned coaches are fantastic coaches and have been able to transfer their knowledge from playing to become coaches. So those people are often very solid technically and tactically. And there are some who yes, I encourage that they actually can challenge, right? Coaches from other sports who know curling well, and people with that physical education background, again, who know curling well. Those are the ones who can challenge. So, beginning of last season, the Ontario Curling Council took over the delivery of the coach training programs from Curl On and NOCA. And as a result, we can be a little bit more efficient, and we're actually able to offer even more workshops. We don't know a boundary to us in Ontario for the council. We don't have a north-south border, so for us, it's fine if we bring a coach from North or a facilitator from North Bay to Perry Sound to do training. Right? I don't know if we would do that, but it's an example of we're able to share resources a little bit. And as a result, I'm hopeful that our learning facilitators and our evaluators will become even more highly trained more quickly. So when people are looking for workshops and evaluation requirements, you need to go to the Ontario Curling Council website, and it's quite simply OntarioCurlingCouncil.com. You'll see under our coaching tab, the second one down, the National Coaching Certification Program. It has the list of all of our current workshops. It explains everything that I have so far in the webinar tonight about evaluation and certification and who should take what course and what not. So if you are providing recommendations to someone in your club, I would point them in this direction. When we're speaking about competition development, it's the step after competition introduction, and it's the one that replaced level 3 technical. So right now, we're training approximately 20 to 25 coaches in this program per year. As a result, it's very difficult to keep every province's learning facilitators trained to the level that they need to, because these workshops might run every 3 to 10 years in some provinces, right? So as a result, Curling Canada has taken them on, and it's one of my little side projects here, and we administer this as a nationally run program. Granted, we don't necessarily offer them as often or as geographically dispersed as I'd like to. We're working to improve that by having a network of high-performance coaches trained to assist me in delivering across the country. So we have delivered in BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Northern Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, maybe not New Brunswick, PEI, I think. Nope, I can't remember. There was another Atlantic province. I can't remember exactly where I did it, but we've been across the country. We do have to get to some outlying provinces, and we have plans to go back to BC this spring and likely Ontario and in the East Coast if we can get enough coaches over there out there interested. So we highly recommend that coaches are level 2 certified or competition coach certified before they even begin their training. That being said, I have let the odd person come into the workshop if they just have their evaluation to complete, only because, you know, how often will we be in that coach's area, right? So, but they are expected to become certified competition coach before they really get started with this. All said and done, if a coach were working very diligently through this program, it would take them probably about 18 months to 2 years to complete. There's a 4-day curling workshop that covers off a number of outcomes. And then there's 3 90-minute webinars we do after the fact. And then in addition to those 4 days, there are 4 multi-sport modules that they need to go and get that training in the multi-sport world. So through the Coaches Association of Canada, Coaches Association of Ontario, they would be offering these workshops. So if you have, and you don't have to take them in that order. If somebody's waiting for a curling workshop to come to their area, I'll send them to go do the multi-sport modules while they're waiting. It's only going to, help them tick a few things off the box, right? So there's anybody who has started this process would be considered in training. When they're done all of the multi-sport modules and the 4-day workshop, they would be considered trained. And then the evaluation process is fairly extensive. It does require several online evaluations. So there's a CompDev Make Ethical Decision evaluation, leading drug-free sports, managing conflict. We have a video analysis. We do a rules evaluation, all online. I'm trying to bring Curling Canada up to speed a little bit more with use of technology, so I'm hoping to improve that process very quickly. As well, there's formal observation, so a in-person observation of a practice that happens during the year, and also the coach working with the team in a competitive environment. And then there's an overall portfolio submission, which is an annual plan, emergency action plans, practice plans, athlete profiles, and a season debrief. There's also some competition reports and whatnot. Once all of those things have been satisfied, the coach should be considered certified. And then after certified, we'll be talking about maintenance of certification in a minute. So I did allude to the fact that a coach could challenge competition development. I've yet to see somebody do it successfully. I've got many highly successful athletes in the program right now, and they're realizing that it's a lot that they wouldn't necessarily have known about. For example, most athletes don't know how to write an annual plan or don't know what goes into writing an annual plan, and the competition development program has been structured so that we now train that performance planning piece within our curling workshop. So the timelines, I don't think I have that. Timelines are, we deliver the workshop in February, March, April, somewhere there. That's ideal. We teach a coach how to write an annual plan. They start to write their annual plan in April, May. And then the evaluation happens over the year, over the curling season, which for an annual plan in curling runs May through the following April. So it's ideal if the workshop happens February, March, April. If it happens later in the fall or in the summer, we're 3, 4, 5 months into an annual plan. And then what happens is the coaches, it's too late to start implementing that and be evaluated on that. So what happens then is the coaches often will drop off. They'll say, oh, I'll get around to it next season, and they never come back to it. Whereas if a coach, they just finished the training, they're more likely to carry forward and actually do the training or do the evaluation the following season, which immediately happens. So as I mentioned, competition development is administered by Curling Canada. We do try to move the workshops around to areas where the most coaches are interested in training. We do need a pocket of about 8 to 10 coaches for the workshops to even be close. They're so highly subsidized, it's not even funny, but for them to be financially sustainable, we do need to have about 8 to 10 people there. And the way we've been managing it to date is coaches indicate their interest in the workshop by emailing my Curling Canada email. And then what happens is I put them on a list, and when I see that we've got, a pocket of 4 or 5 coaches in the same province, we'll often work with that member association to locate a course in that province. And then we advertise it, and often we can get the remaining 4 to 6 coaches that we need to make the workshop viable. So I will send you a copy of this workshop or this webinar, and the links are live. So if you want to get workshop information, it is linked to the Curling Canada website. I mentioned what we do here. So the 4-day workshop, we teach coaches how to write annual plans, how to do gap analysis, goal setting, all of that. We teach you about skill analysis, so even using technology in curling to analyze both brushing and delivery. We go over all the skills that are required to manage a program. And developing athletic abilities and prevention and recovery are two of the multi-sport modules which we chose to integrate. They're delivered by Kyle Turcott, who is the National Team Program Strength and Conditioning Coach, who works out of the Canadian Sport Institute in Manitoba. And Kyle's a trained facilitator now, and what we've done is we've curlified these 2 modules so that the coaches get real and practical information as to how to develop the fitness programs and the stretching and the strength and conditioning programs for their curling athletes. And by integrating them, the 2 modules, We've actually shaved about 4 hours off of the workshops because there's quite a bit of repetition between these two modules. So they're always delivered kind of the last 2 days of our 4-day workshop, and they're almost always the most highly rated sections of those workshops because it's often new information that the coaches had never heard before. We tackle strategy and advanced practice planning online, and we're looking to get a little bit more sophisticated with our learning management systems. We just need to kind of blow up how we train competition development, and we're really looking to take as many things online as we can to improve accessibility to the program, and then integrate with training camps that happen pretty much in every province. So we're really looking at competition development with a critical eye to make sure that it's as accessible as it can be. But until then, we will continue to develop it. I think I've already gone over the competition development evaluation components. I'm going to just open up the line there and ask if anybody's got any questions.
Yeah,
anybody?
Jen,
yeah.
Jen, it's Dan Lemieux.
Hi.
Hi, I'm interested in taking the competition development in the spring, or if you have it in February, March.
Yep.
If I was to do managing conflict and all that now, with the PD, it wouldn't go towards my PD points for, like I'm already, I have all my PD points right now. After tonight, I'll have the 20. Will I gain PD points for my next round? Like, you know, like a...
No. Only do you expire January 1st, 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you would. So,
like
because...
if I was to take managing conflict online right now.
Oh, if you only if you take it after January 1st.
Or first.
Yeah.
Okay.
January 1st. Okay. Okay, I'll add you, Dan, to my list.
Okay, that'd be great.
Dan, Ontario. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I'm just going to check that box. Okay. I'm going to mute you all again. Not that I don't want to hear you, just you guys are noisy. So some of you were trained in the old system, the levels based, and there is a magic formula that kind of that we used to transfer everybody over. So if you haven't been in your locker, which is the NCCP database that Coaching Association of Canada maintains, you should try to log in there, because what you would see, and I'll show you some sample transcripts in a minute, you'll see that everybody who had training in the level system was given some sort of equivalency in the new system. So Curling Canada had to develop a set of transfer rules, and we put these in place years ago now. I think March 2015, I think, is when we transferred over. But you can see what they are, and quite frankly, when people call me and say, well, I've got this and this, but I don't have that, I go to the transfer rules all the time, and it kind of helps me advise the coach, okay, well, you need to go get this training or do this evaluation piece, and then you'll get the equivalency in the new system. So the transfer rules, even though they're dated March 2015, they're still valid, and we use them all the time. And the locker has the background information, kind of all the different pathways built to it. But I'm not going to lie to you, there are certain combinations of trainings from the old to the new that might not trigger a certified status in the locker. So sometimes we have to just play around with the data entry to make sure you get the appropriate credit, because it's almost impossible to come up with every possible scenario and to write the code for it. It was too much. So I think in the last 4 years, I've come across one coach who we couldn't figure out how to trigger the certified status, and we had to kind of do some backroom data entry. So as a result, anybody who was certified in the old level system were transferred over, and they were then, their 5-year kind of ticker, I call it, started on January 1st, 2016, and they have to now earn PD points. So the other thing is, make ethical decisions has to be, your evaluation has to be part of those PD points. So if you were a certified level 2 coach in the old system, you were given an equivalency of certified competition coach, but we all know to be a certified competition coach, you have to have the make ethical decision online evaluation. So you have until January 1st, 2021 to do your make ethical decision online evaluation, right? That's one of the mandatories. So here's an example of what the transfer rules actually looks like. This is just a screenshot of it. So for example, if I took my level 1 technical and my level 1 theory, but I never did my level 1 practical, I'm not level 1 certified. So I was given credit for an in-training status of club coach youth, club coach, and competition coach. But you'll see what's missing, because you never in level 1 technical or theory did we ever address make ethical decisions. So so to become fully trained, you would have to get your MED training. And then in order to become competition coach certified, that coach would need to do that competition coach evaluation and the MED evaluation. So you can see every level, and we try to hit as many of those combinations, is built out in the transfer rules on curling.ca, which is Curling Canada's website. So I alluded to the fact that the locker is the NCCP database that tracks all your coach training. And the locker has evolved over this whole process, and it wasn't very good for a long time, but now it's actually a very useful tool, and it's pretty reliable, unless you're a learning facilitator or coach developer, in which case it's still kind of screwed up. So I know some of you on the call are, so just take that with a grain of salt and know that I'm trying to work to figure that part out. But if you want to know how to get to the locker, you do so by going to the Coaching Association of Canada's website at coach.ca. And in the top right corner, you'll see a tab for the locker. And you'll then be directed to a screen that looks like this at the bottom here. And this is where you log in with your NCCP number. You can even look it up. And if you've, or your email. But it has to be the email that's on file with the Coaching Association of Canada. And often many people will forget what emails they logged in there with. And if you don't, or if you're a brand new coach, or you're recommending that somebody become a coach, they can create a new account and get in the locker just by going through this link. So this is basically how you access the locker. I've taken a screenshot of my own template, and yours wouldn't normally have this black bar on the top. I just kind of blocked out my personal information there. But what you'll see when you get on to your NCCP transcript is a few things. I'm trying to highlight a few of them. Across the top, there's the home, e-learning, calendar, pathways, events, and reports. Now, yours might not have pathways, events, and reports. This is because I'm an administrator for the sport of curling. So don't be surprised if yours does not have those. It might have pathways, but I don't think it'll have events or reports. But you will, and what I really wanted to highlight was e-learning and a calendar here. So when you want to go on and take your Make Ethical Decision online evaluation, you need to sign into your locker profile, and then you would click on e-learning, and then you would have all the options for e-learning that are available to you would come up. So you would see things like managing conflict, developing athletic abilities pre-workshop. You'd see coaching and leading, managing conflict, leading drug-free sport. You would see making headway as an option, which is a concussion awareness program. You would see coaching athletes with a disability. You would see the new coach initiation module. And just before I forget, there are three modules: coaching and leading effectively. No, I'm lying to you. Coach initiation. I think it's coaching athletes with a disability. And there's another one. They're all free this week and eligible for 5 PD points each through the Coaching Association of Canada's website. So because it's Coaches Week, until Sunday, they're all free. But there's 3 of them, and I'm drawing a blank on the third. And Making Headway, which is the concussion awareness one, is always free. So if you need a quick 5 PD points, you can go on there. But then the other thing I want to, this is a screenshot of my transcript. So if I were to click on details, it would have my address and my email address and all that kind of stuff. Or that might actually be under my profile. But certification is where I spend most of my time, and it's the actual transcript, right? And when you see what's highlighted here. So this is my transcript. If I were to click on maintenance, you would see my maintenance and certification, so my PD points. Those of you who are not coach developers will not have a coach developer tab, but you all should have a whistle, and you can only see your whistle or your self-report on your own transcript. So say, for example, you're having problems entering something and you call me and you say, Jen, I can't self-report my active coaching. I have no ability as an administrator to go in and enter your self-report. You can only enter your own self-report things on your own transcript. And this is what the self-report button looks like. So you're able to record 1 year of active, you basically get 1 point per year of active coaching. So whether you coach Little Rocks, or you teach 600 people how to curl, or you take a team to the Olympics, it doesn't matter. All that is active coaching. And you only get 1 point per year for doing active coaching. It does not matter the success of your athlete. The CAC does not recognize that. So you can see here that even, so I have 6 years listed here. I probably expire on January 1st, but only 5 of these will ever count. You can enter these retroactively as well. And I have never taken the time to self-report here, but you could, where you could record some professional development. So for example, say you took CPR training at work. That's a transferable skill, or first aid, or say you had a keynote speaker and it was about leadership, you know, or you read a good book about something. You could record all of those things and put it down there. So there is a maximum of 3 points per maintenance cycle for coach self-reporting. So the other thing that's important, so if I were to click on my maintenance of certification tab, there's a few things that you want to see here, and I want to point out the difference. So you can see at the top here, I was a certified coach in the previous level system, and mine was transferred. So the transfer date actually happened, I forget the exact date, but it was in March 2015. But the maintenance of certification calendar always works January 1st to January 1st. So our 5-year ticker for the certified transferred coaches would count, started on January 1st, 2016. So even though our transcripts all transferred over in March 2015, we had the benefit March to December of 2015 plus January 1st to 2016 to 2021 to earn those points. So my points, you can see here, I needed 20 points to maintain my certified competition introduction status. And if you were to scroll lower on mine, you would see that I'm a certified competition development coach as well, and I need 30 points for that. So I had the 30 of my 30 points. You'll also see on your transcript the STAR system. If you're in training, you have 1 star. If you're trained, you have 2 stars. If you're certified, you'll have 3 stars lit up. And you can see, I can tell you we did the transfer. It says we did it May 2015, but I know it was in March, so it doesn't matter. This is where the locker still has a few nuances here. But you can see that my NCCP activities would get me 5 points here, right? And then I did a bunch of non-NCCP sport-specific activities, and I have a variety of them there. And if I were to scroll this down, this is just a screenshot. If you actually saw my transcript, you would see that I have lots of points. So Greg asked a question, so first aid training counts towards points. Yes, absolutely. Just enter it as self-report. You get 3 points for that. The Coaching Association of Canada continues to work with partner organizations like, say, St. John's or Red Cross, whatnot, to try to get them tied directly to the locker, but they're still a little ways away from that. So to satisfy that, they've done the self-reporting feature. So this is what a certified transferred transcript looks like. Take a look here at a newly certified coach. So this coach just got certified September 2nd, 2018. So his 5-year ticker window actually starts January 1st, 2019. So any PD points that he earns between September 3rd, 2018 and December 31st will also contribute toward his 5-year points total. So you can see that as a certified competition introduction coach, he has 0 of 20 points so far. Okay. And the maintenance of certification policy, again, it's not just something we make up. It is a Curling Canada policy that has been reviewed and passed by the membership. And we're an active coach probably won't have problems getting the required PD points. The problem is going to be for the coaches who aren't aware that they need PD points because, you know, they were a certified coach in the level system and haven't coached for the last 10 years, and they haven't kept their email up to date with the locker, and therefore they haven't been receiving the regular emails that come from coach.ca or about their certification. So it's really hard to communicate with some of those coaches. They're the ones I'm more worried about. I'm less worried about the people who are actively coaching and know that PD is a requirement. There is becoming more and more opportunities to earn PD. So, you know, we have fewer and fewer excuses. So people who are in, you know, remote areas or, you know, in Newfoundland or PEI where there's not a lot of opportunities that are happening, there are still opportunities for people to join remotely. And to be honest, the OCC webinar series has been able to fill that gap for a lot of people. So, so a lot of people are already doing PD. We just got to track it, right? So, I think I already said that when you're a certified competition coach, you need 20 points, and a certified competition development coach needs 30. If you are certified in both contexts, you don't need 50 points. You only need the higher of the two, and the points that I earned towards my competition development also count towards my competition introduction, unless there's a date overlap. So for a little bit, my points that I was earning for competition introduction may not count towards my competition development if I'm not certified competition development yet, right? Okay, so how to accumulate points? This is the question I get asked the most. So there's 2 different categories here. There's curling specific activities, and then there's multi-sport activities. So if you're actively coaching, I alluded to the fact that it's 1 point per year for every season that you coach, to a maximum of 5 points per certification renewal period. Learning facilitators and evaluators, should actively, I think the locker, this is what the wish list was that the locker would automatically see when you delivered a workshop and should give you credit. And if it's not already doing that, which I'm not 100% sure that it is because I haven't seen it on my own personal transcript, that's the wish list for the Coaching Association of Canada going forward, is that as the locker entry gets created and you're recorded as a learning facilitator, it's tied directly and gives you that point. I haven't seen it yet though. And any NCCP activity, so if you were to take, say you're a certified competition coach and you start to take competition development, all of those competition development activities would get you 5 points. Or say you're a certified competition coach and you decide to go and take Club Coach Youth because now you want to work with your kids, you would get 5 points for that. Or if you take any NCCP delivered workshop or webinar or online training, so for example, making ethical decisions, you get 5 points if you're certified already. If you're not yet certified, you can't earn points, so the points don't count. So maybe make ethical decisions is a bad example. Maybe it's making headway or coaching athletes with a disability or coach initiation, one of the new online modules. I don't remember what the other one. There's a new one that's a Jumpstart Keeping Girls in Sport that's being offered free this week too. A non-NCCP activity, so say for example this webinar can get you 1 point per hour of activity up to 3 points maximum. So if you come to a curling specific training, so say I hold a youth curling summit and it's 3 hours long, you'd get 3 points. If it's 3 days long, you'd still only get 3 points. And I've tried to actually section out every different hour of a webinar or of a conference, whatever, and it doesn't work. So it has to be it's 1 point per hour to maximum of 3 points per event. We just talked about coach self-directed activities. You can enter activities that you feel have bettered you as a coach, and I've yet to see anything rejected. So 3 points, and you don't have to keep proof of anything or have anybody sign off that you read a book or anything like that. It's the honor system. If our coaches can't be honorable, then God help us, right? Then we're training a bunch of kids who won't be ethical, right? And if at any point a coach wants to not earn PD points and just go and be reevaluated, that would give them 100% of the points they require for that context. So there are also multi-sport activities. So for example, a multi-sport activity would be managing conflict. The CompDev multi-sport module that we require for part of the CompDev training, that would get you 5 points. Or if you take the managing conflict evaluation, that gets you 5 points. So you can see it pretty quickly. If you start your CompDev training and you'll rack up your 20 PD points for CompInt very, very quickly. And again, any non-NCCP activity, so say, for example, you decide to go to the Coaches Association of Canada Coaches Association of Ontario annual conference, you would get 3 points for that. Okay. So I tried to come up with a list of the sport-specific workshops or the multi-sport modules that are deemed NCCP workshops and they're equal to 5 points. So any of the curling workshops, so Club Coach Youth, Club Coach, Competition Coach, or CompDev. There's the Aboriginal coaching modules, Empower Plus. Apparently it's an amazing module. I've yet to go through it. Fundamental movement skills, make ethical decisions, planning a practice, nutrition, resistance training, teaching and learning. Many of these workshops we've integrated within our curling workshops. So we've curlified these things and built them into Club Coach, Competition Coach, and CompDev. But for many sports, all they do is train their sport-specific things, and they get the coach to shop all these multi-sport topics in a multi-sport environment. So we just happen to teach most of these things within our curling workshops. So design a basic sport program, teaching basic mental skills, coaching, leading effectively, the 6 multi-sport modules basically. And then I highlighted these red ones at the bottom: making headway, coach initiation in sport, and coaching athletes with a disability. These are the new online ones. And literally today I just learned about keeping girls in sport. So that's another new one. And then there's some examples of sport-specific opportunities. So every once in a while, you'll see us offer a wheelchair curling coach PD module. I'm trying to bring this one online this year. The Canada Winter Games PD module is another one. We offer conferences and symposiums. And just to kind of give you a little preview, we're going to be hosting a variety of youth curling summits. End of October, beginning of November. We're trying to secure dates from curling clubs right now to inform active coaches and youth program leaders in clubs about all the new Curling Canada Youth Feeder System programs. Included with that will be a new leader and training program that we're using to teach young people how to teach curling, so that we hopefully attract more kids to curling, because we're not having older adults running the curling programs. We're hoping to have younger kids teaching, and hopefully then it'll be a little bit more attractive to kids. So that's coming soon. There are mentorship programs. So for example, our Next Gen program in Ontario here, we've run a variety of mentorship opportunities. If you attend training camps, either as an instructor at the camp and or a team coach, in Ontario, we give you PD points. Obviously, webinars, you all know about our webinars, but I'm not sure if you know that we've made I think most of last year's PD, or last year's webinars are all now available on our website, and you can access any of them for free. But if you want to get PD points for them retroactively, there's a little quiz you need to fill in, and you have to pay a fee so that we cover off our administrative costs of going in and creating events in the locker and giving you all that credit. So the information is there for free. So if you want to just learn, that could be some of your self-directed learning if you want, or self-reported learning. But if you actually want the PDs for that event, you just complete the quiz. And that'll get submitted. So that's a new feature. I just got that up and running, I think, last Thursday. So as we do more webinars, we'll add those to the archive list. Obviously, there's online learning opportunities. We even recognize the work that our clinicians do on the Curl On Clinic team. And we give people PD points for being active on that, because they're required to go through mandatory training, and they get better through teaching. And there are some events that we endorse, third-party events, such as an example, the Slam Series, the Junior Slam Series Rock Talks. We don't endorse them all, but there has to be some valid learning activities there for the coaches. And when we actually have to assess those outcomes, and then we decide whether or not those activities will be endorsed. So Earl Morris has put on some seminars in the past. He has gone through that process. Carl Moncton has done a few things with us. And just as an example is that there are third parties out there who are doing great work, and we want to recognize that. But we need the PD. We have to sanction the event and take responsibility for entering them into the locker. There are some multi-sport opportunities too, and there will be links to all of these things. So there's Respect in Sport for activity leaders as well as for parents. Commit to Kids is one about protecting vulnerable children and basically childhood abuse. High Five is a really interesting program. It's about the mental health of children and kids who are participating in sport. It's a day-long workshop. And Sport for Life is the agency who works for Sport Canada in designing our long-term athlete development models. They created that whole framework. So they're the organization who drives fundamental movement skills and physical literacy and age and stage appropriate training and whatnot. And they have a whole online portal, or it's a campus, I think they called it. Now, there are some fees for the workshops. They're very reasonable, about $20, $25 maybe, thereabouts. What I couldn't find readily is if they were automatically linked to the locker. I think they are. And as are Respect in Sport and Commit to Kids and High Five, I believe are all directly tied to the locker. But if you do want to make sure that you get PD, I would reach out to those organizations. For sure, I know Respect in Sport is tied to it, and Sport for Life had Coaching Association of Canada on their website, so I think it's linked, but I couldn't find an affirmative answer to that when I was building this out. So a couple of frequently asked questions that I get often. If you're certified in 2 different sports, your accumulated points apply to both sports. So if you earn points in curling and you're also a basketball coach, you'll actually get points for basketball. So the number of points that you're required to maintain is whatever sport is the highest. So if basketball needs you to have 30 points, but curling only needs you to have 20, you actually need to have 30 points. If you're certified in 2 different contexts, this is my example. I'm certified in Comp Dev and in Comp Int. I'm required to go to the highest number, and the points count for both. And if I don't complete my NCCP maintenance certification in time, what happens is your status would go from certified to certified not renewed. And what happens then is that I think what's going to happen in curling is that you will be required just to catch up the number of points that you're lacking. So say I had 17 of my 20 points and I went certified not renewed, I'd have to get those other 3 points to get up to that certified status, and then you'd start fresh again. The reason why I'm saying I think what's going to happen is the Coaching Association of Canada just went through a few sports who actually hit their expiry dates, and they were trying to figure out the logistics of how it all works in the locker, and the consensus was that was kind of how the system was going to work. So that is what we think is going to happen come January 1st. We're kind of lucky because we've had those other sports who've already expired who are going to give us the benefit of learning that. Oh, perfect. So we have confirmation Commit to Kids is on the locker as well. Perfect. Thanks, Louise and Lee. So what you need to know from a sport-specific perspective is that every province will make their own rules surrounding not renewed versus renewed. So, Ontario, Northern Ontario Curling Association and Curl On are not going to hold the coach's feet to the fire this year and say, oh, you're not renewed. You can't coach at juniors or whatever the level is. There will be a bit of an education or a phase-in year. So we might see, maybe not, it's not going to be this season, but maybe it's a season or 2 from now where, a coach will have to actually have their maintenance of certification points up to date. But right now, we know that there's a bit of an education gap in the process. So a coach will not, like I said, not be held to task this season in Ontario. I cannot speak for other provinces. Each of those provinces will have to set their own rules for that. Are international events eligible for PD? So at the moment, they would be recorded as self-report events. So there are times when an organization like the World Curling Federation may present a coach seminar at the Worlds, and they're in Halifax. They will sometimes contact us ahead of time and say, this is what we're planning to do. Can you recognize coaches for their PD? And as long as they've cleared it with us ahead of time and advertised it as an opportunity to earn PD, Curling Canada will sign off on some World Curling Federation events when they happen in Canada. If the World Curling Federation does not go through the exercise of getting that stuff pre-approved, we have no means of knowing that the event happened. And to be honest, NCCP doesn't really matter anywhere outside of Canada. It's not my job to track other countries' coaches, really. So that's why we really only usually sanction events that happen in Canada. Other than that, as I mentioned, university, college courses, officials training, things like that are all eligible for PD and can be done through your self-report button. So I also have coaches ask me, why aren't events that they coach at? So say, for example, you decide to run the Learn to Curl League at your club, and they wonder why you can't get points for running that league. That's actually considered active coaching. So only camps or training events that are led by a Coaching Association of Canada partner, so that would be one of the member associations, are eligible for points unless that partner endorses you. And that partner would need to be made aware of the coaching and learning outcomes that are going to happen at that event. So I'm just going to pick on Dan because I had a conversation with him. If Dan was running something in the Sioux, as the Provincial Coaching Association endorsing events, I have no idea what Dan's teaching. Dan could be teaching, how to throw out of the wrong hack for all I know. I don't think he would be, but I have no visibility as to what's actually happening there. Whereas a training camp that's actually being run by the Ontario Curling Council, who are, by their high performance coaches or the staff that they hire, they're responsible for that agenda and the curriculum that's taught. So that's kind of the difference as to why CAC-led events are eligible, and the clinics that are run by the coaches in the clubs might not be. And then we often get asked about athlete performance. If you get more PD points, your PD points are not tied to athlete performance, only because there's many, many good coaches out there who have spent many years coaching, who maybe never are coaching a successful, like a winning athlete or that team that gets to nationals, right? But what you do need to know is that if your team does make it to a national, Curling Canada is trying really hard now to provide you some PD opportunities when you get there. So it's pretty common that 3 nights or so throughout the week, they'll have guest speakers or educational events to come in, and you are eligible for PD if you attend those events at a national. I would highly recommend, so I often get asked, how would I know about PD points? I do still need to create like a newsletter type function on my website where you can sign up and get sent alerts. But in the meantime, you need to be going out and seeking this information sometimes. So I would highly recommend you get connected on the Curling Canada website, the Curl On, Northern Ontario, the Ontario Curling Council, the World Curling Federation, different tours, the World Curling Tour, Ontario Junior Curling Tour, Junior Slam Series, and then multi-sport agencies like Coaches Association of Ontario and Coaching Association of Canada. And I would subscribe to their Facebook, their Twitters, their whatever, because not only do we post things on our website, but we often hit social media. And at least I find that coaches I think we're only hitting the same group of coaches, so I really need to do a better job at trying to expand our reach a little bit. But in the short term, I know that you're less likely to miss things if you're subscribed to all those things. I think that's it. How's my time? Oh, right on time. So I'm going to open it up for any questions. Is anybody still awake? I'm almost tired myself.
Yeah, Jen, it's Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I'm not quite sure if I missed this or not, but so I need to get my 20 points for now. Let's say for some reason I get 26 points before my term is up. Do those extra 6 count for the next term?
No. So I can hear a phone ringing. I'm not sure why I'm hearing a phone ringing. But no. So basically, like if you saw my script, you would see I have probably 100 points. And as of January 1st, they're all going to expire, and I'm going to start again.
Okay, so these 20 points that I have were for over a 5-year term. So when I'm done in 2021, I've got another 5 years to get another 20 points, correct?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you're certified comp dev by then, in which case you would need 30 points.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Excellent. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I won't keep you any longer. I can hear myself. I can hear an echo now. So I'll sign off. But Andrea Ronnebeck will send everybody out the recording and give us a day or so. We'll get this event loaded onto the locker for you. And just so you know, it takes about 24 hours or so once we enter something into the locker for it to go through an approval process. So it gets approved by the province, and then Curling Canada, and then by Coaching Association of Canada. So it does take a little bit of time to get on there. Okay? I think most of you have my email address. You're welcome to contact me anytime with questions of this. I know it's confusing, but by all means, give us a shout if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jen.
No problem. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Right.